Hello and welcome to another video introducing you to the features of the Gamepad Navigator. Check out the introduction video linked in the description if you need more background on what the Gamepad Navigator is or does. In this video, I will go through and operate interactive page elements like text inputs and select boxes. All navigation and inputs will be performed using the Gamepad Navigator and a gamepad. On the bottom of the screen, you can see an on-screen representation of my gamepad, which will highlight buttons and move sticks to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with basic navigation using the bumpers and click buttons. If not, check out our video on navigating within a page. I'm also going to assume that you're familiar with the action launcher. If not, check out our video on navigating between pages. We're currently on the home page of the Fluid project, which is the community that developed much of the software that was used to build the Gamepad Navigator. Let's navigate to the Learner Options demo. So you can see we have a banner that explains what the Preferences framework is and does, and then you can see a Show Preferences toggle that will let us open the Preferences framework. The first thing I'm going to do is close the explanatory banner so that we can see what happens, and then I'm going to activate the toggle to display the page preferences. I'm navigating between options using bumpers. The first thing I'll show you is a toggle. To operate a toggle, you simply click on it, just as you would on a checkbox, and it changes the state. If it's off, it changes state to on. If it's on, you click it and it turns off. So you can see the effect on screen. This is adding a button to read content out loud. Simplify button similarly, you can see that it changes the page as you operate the toggles. So that was toggles. Let's look at a number input. So a number input, we know what numbers are allowed and how quickly we can move up or down. So in this case, we can move up and down in tenth of an integer increments. 0.1 at a time. I'm using the D-pad to move up and down, and you can see the word spacing changing. I'll point out that if I hold the D-pad, it will keep moving as long as I keep holding it. I'm going to set that back to 1 just so we can see what we're doing. Same thing for letter spacing. I can use the left and right arrows on the D-pad or the up and down arrows on the D-pad. We can also click on a number input to open a number pad. So the number pad, you operate with the D-pad keys, just as you would the on-screen keyboard. I'm going to remove what's there and enter 2, which I already know is a valid value. So now I'm going to go down to Update Field, and you see that it's now set to 2. I'm going to change this. Let's get back to where we were so I can see. Yeah, it's a little hard to see what we're doing. Right. So I wanted to show you this right here. I'm going through the tabs right here, but if I were using arrow keys on a keyboard, the selected option would change as I move through them. This is very similar to what will happen with radio buttons, where the tab will move you through the options and you have to click a radio button to select it. But if you use arrows, it will automatically select them as you move through. In this case, if I don't like that, I just move to this option, which is not to apply any contrast changes. So if I can't see the value, I just need to scroll a little past it. This is pretty common from keyboard navigation. We can change the font size using the select box. A select box, we had a previous approach that would try to make it bigger, but this didn't work out as well for all the kinds of select boxes that are out there. So what we have now, when we click on a select box, is another modal that pops up and shows you the list of selected options and also which one is selected. So in this case, I use the arrow keys to navigate through, and I select Comic Sans by clicking on it. And now my font is Comic Sans. If I want to change that back, I go back and select default. Right. So those are the controls that I wanted to demonstrate with the preferences framework. Let's go back and hide that preferences framework. The next thing I want to show you is how to enter text. Specifically, I want to show you a longer way to do a search. If you've watched the other videos, I've shown you that there's a search button that lets you directly use the search API, but you also can open a new window and operate a search form like Google's search form. So we're currently focused on the text field. You can see the blinking cursor. If I click there, the on-screen keyboard will open, and I can navigate through using D-pad, type what I want to enter, now I've made a little mistake, but I want to show you you can actually use the on-screen keyboard's arrow keys to move through the text and make corrections. So you don't have to backspace through everything if you discover that you have made a typo earlier. So I've entered the text that I want to search for. I use the bumpers to go down to update field. And now, because this way this form operates, I need to go down to the Google search button. My default language is Dutch, but this should be very familiar if you've ever used Google. There you go. So that is how you perform a search, i.e. edit a text field and operate a form. And that was the last thing I wanted to demonstrate for you today. If you want to see a quicker way to navigate using the search, built-in search, you should check out our video on navigating between pages. So that concludes our demo. For more information about the Gamepad Navigator, check out the other videos in the series.